When it comes to the proper riding position on a bike, the hips are often to blame for improper technique. Not having the mobility in your hips will limit your ability to unlock them, and that translates into not having the proper attack angle on the bike. So in today's video, I'm going to show you 3 little stretches that you can do. You can either do them at home, during your workout, after your workout, whatever. You can even do them at the track, at the hill, whatever you get to, just as you're doing kind of a bit of a warm-up before you go riding. They're really easy to do, but they're going to help you open up your hips. They're going to help you improve your mobility on the bike, allow you to get into a better position on the bike, which allows to improve your technique, makes you safer, faster. Win, win, win. Let's do it. Okay, so stretch number 1 is called a dynamic frog pose. Now, you'll have to forgive me, I snagged my foot in a rut, so my knee's a little sore, but we can still get through these nonetheless. So the dynamic frog pose is really pretty straightforward to do. You're just gonna start by opening up your knees. Now this really comes, how far you go is really kind of a somewhat of a personal thing. You know, depending on how much mobility you have, you'll just spread your knees apart, and then you're gonna start with your hands out in front of you. Now, you don't want them too far apart. You wanna have them just slightly shallower than your shoulder width apart. And a big thing here is you wanna have a curve in your lower back. So this is kind of what it looks like from the front, but just for the sake of the video, so you have an idea what I'm talking about. Do you see how I have that curve in my lower back here? So what happens is that allows you to open up your hips more. So if you have your back rounded, right, your hips and your lower back are still in alignment, but as you rotate you kind of stick your junk out, you'll find that you have that nice lower curve in your lower back there, and that's what's going to allow your hips to open up more. So as we get into that position, and as you get your junk out, you drop drop your hips down, have that dip in your lower back. Then all you're gonna do is you're gonna rock back a little bit towards your back of your feet. And from there, you're gonna start to feel a lot of stretching going on in your hips here. So, and that's really what you wanna feel is in your hip area there. So just start out by getting your knees kind of as wide as you can get them. And you're gonna remember, you wanna tilt that bucket of your hips. So you're gonna tilt it forward, get that nice lower curve in your lower back there. And then you're just gonna rock back a little bit on your back towards your heels, and you're gonna feel that stretch right in your hip area. So you wanna hold this for 2 to 3 minutes at a level that's comfortable to you. It's a really great way of opening up the hips. And now an added benefit to this too is you don't have to just hold this position. You can, but you can also just kind of get deep into it where you feel a nice stretch in there, and then rock out of it a little bit, and then exhale. Get nice and deep into that stretch again, making sure again that you have your hips tilted and you have that nice curve in your lower back, and you're just rocking back. Keep your chin up, your chest up, and you'll feel that deep stretch right in your hip area there. So that is the dynamic frog pose. Really beneficial opening up your hips. That's a great one to start with. Okay, so stretch number 2 is one that's called the Bretzel Stretch, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. I think it's called Bretzel, is how you pronounce it, but nonetheless, really easy stretch to do. So you're gonna start by just lying on your side, and I just gotta move my mic here so I don't crush it. Start by lying on your side, and you're gonna have one, the upper leg is just gonna come around in front of you like this, and you're gonna hold it down with this arm so that it doesn't start to go back or forward or move around on you. And you're gonna rotate, so this shoulder, you're gonna try and get it as far across as you can so that it feels like it's almost touching the ground, to the best of your mobility, that is, anyway. So you got this here, you got a nice 90-degree bend in that leg. Now you're probably gonna feel a little bit of tightness in your lower back or even in your glute area. That's totally cool because that's helping stretch that area as well. Now you're gonna take your free hand and your free foot, you're gonna grab your foot. This is where it starts, you'll start to feel it stretch and open up your hips. So this one stays rotated down, which is why you're holding it down. This foot here, you're gonna grab this, and if you watch my lower leg, you're gonna start to rotate that lower leg back. Now, you're gonna start to feel this stretch a lot in your quad area, but also in your hips as well as your lumbar region in your lower back. You're gonna be able to open that up more. So this is a really good one for mobility, and you just wanna have a good handhold on your foot here, but you wanna just pull that quad back just a little bit and get that nice and open up. Like I said, you're gonna feel a deep stretch in your quads on this one, as well as your lower back region. You're gonna increase your mobility here as well. But you should feel some in the hip region because it's gonna help open things up just a little bit, because the upper quads and stuff will get a little bit tight. So make sure you got a nice handhold on there, and just, again, you wanna hold it for a couple minutes if you can. You know, just concentrating on having that right position and keeping that back one nice and tight. And I do want to mention that if you're having trouble with that Bretzel stretch and you can't quite grab your lower foot, you know how I was pulling it back a little bit, you don't quite have the mobility for that, by all means you can use a towel or something like that, wrap it around your foot, and use that to assist as a bit of an extension of your arm, if you will, to help get you that movement in, because not everybody has the mobility to do that, and I'm definitely not the most mobile person in the world. So it's just a way that you can kind of scale that if you're having trouble doing that. That's a Bretzel stretch. Really good for helping open up the hips. Let's move on to number 3. And finally, number 3 is a movement called the Pigeon Pose. You may or may not be familiar with this one, but there are a couple things to keep in mind to make this an effective stretch. And this one, you're gonna see people doing a lot differently from one another based on their mobility. There are people that have crazy amounts of mobility and flexibility that can get into positions on this pose that I have a long way to go before I can get there, based on sore joints and all those kinds of things. But we're gonna give it a try nonetheless. So you wanna have your hips squared to the mat to start off, and you wanna take, doesn't matter which side you start on, you'll take one leg, and if you'll notice here, it's kind of squared up 90 degrees to the mat. You wanna try and keep it this way, but again, your mobility will dictate really what position you end up in. You're gonna find that my foot starts to come in closer to my hip area because I just don't have that much mobility in that knee. So you start off square to the mat with your hips, have that knee out. And I don't know if you can see already, but my leg is already kind of coming in a little bit. The other leg you wanna have extended straight out behind you, as straight as you can, again, depending on your mobility. And here's the thing, so this is the basics of the pigeon pose, just like this. If you can have this leg completely perpendicular to the other leg, that's fantastic. Or if it's just kind of running right horizontal in front of you, that's really the ideal position for that. But if you can't do it, like I can't do it, that's completely fine. So this is how you want to start it off. Now here's the thing, depending on your mobility, you're gonna make this a little harder yet. So if you got your hips nice and square to the mat, the goal is you want to come down until you actually can almost have your entire chest touching the floor. I can't do that. I'm a little too stiff for that. So what I can do, however, is I can come down onto my forearms, and just like I talked about with the frog stretch, you want to be able to, you're going to just rock it back just a little bit, and you're going to feel the stretch in your glutes, your lower back. You're gonna feel some stuff in your hip for sure. With the leg that has the side extended out, so it'd be my left leg, you're gonna feel a stretch in that left hip region quite a bit. So I'll spin it around, you can kind of see what I'm doing here. So keep that leg as straight as you can, hip square to the mat. You're gonna really feel a stretch here in your hip region. So if you want to come up, you can stretch that area a little more yet, or if you want to stretch your glutes and some of the other inner hip regions of the leg that's bent, you can come down and you'll feel that stretch in there as well. So again, adding difficulty to it, you can try and come down really far. I don't have the mobility to do that. I wish I did, but hey, we always got to work on something, right? So there's your pigeon pose. You hold this to the best that you can for, 2 to 3 minutes, that kind of thing. And then just switch sides, bring the other leg up, try and square up to the mat. And you may find too that you don't have the same mobility from one side to the other, that's completely normal. Could be from injury, could be from, you know, your body overusing one side versus the other or whatever. That's totally normal. Just do what you can with what you have. So get back into that pose again. And it feels really good. It's a good pose. It feels good. You really feel it in that glute area on the side that's bent, and then in your hip flexor area on the other side. It's fantastic. So that is number 3, the pigeon pose. And that's it. 3 easy poses to help open up your hip area. Hope you liked it. Like I said, you can do these at home. You can do them when you wake up, before you go to bed. You can do them at the track, before and after you ride. Really just do these whenever the heck you get a chance and really open up that hip section. I need to work on it. I would suggest most 99% of people need to work on it. Riding bikes and stuff, we do use our hips a ton, which means they get tight, they get fatigued. We can always help by opening them up a little bit. Smash subscribe for me. We'll see you in the next video.